For this week's weekly gains tip, I want to talk about social listening. Now, the reason I want to talk about social listening is because this is a term that I hear thrown around in so many different ways. And I want to start by how do we actually define what is social listening? Now, I've heard people ask me, do you have the capabilities to do social listening? And in short, yes, everyone has the capabilities to do social listening. It comes down to the tools you want to use. But the real question is, what do you actually want to get out of listening? What does that actually mean? Oftentimes when people ask about social listening, what they really mean is they're trying to predict, they want to use it in more of a predictive sense. They want to use social listening to predict what they should create next. Now, social listening, in essence, and what most tools will allow you to do is more reactive and not proactive. So most people, when they say like, oh, can you do social listening? Their real request is more of, can you do social listening to be proactive and, have your finger on the pulse so we can adjust content in real time. Now that to me is more in content discovery. So I'm going to go over two tools today, BuzzSumo and Mention, because these are like the top two tools that I like. I don't have an account right now because I don't need it, but I want to talk about some of the differences here so you can learn a little bit about how to make a decision around which tool you might want to use. So I'm going to go over Mention first because this is an actual social listening tool. And what that really means is you have the ability to manage and monitor, like over here you can kind of see notifications. You have the ability to monitor anytime your brand is mentioned in the media. So what that means is if you're trying to track who's talking about your brand across social media, across press, this is a great tool to aggregate everything within a stream. It's also a great way if you're looking at what is the sentiment around your brand. Based on all the mentions, it can do sentiment analysis so you can kind of get a sense of, is the conversation positive or negative around how people are talking about your brand online? And that can help you adjust if you need to, update content to be more positive if people are talking about your brand in a negative way. But again, this is information that's after the fact that allows you to then digest that and then adjust your campaigns accordingly. However, if you're looking at doing social listening to understand what are the trends, so this has nothing to do with your brand itself, but everything to do with what is the pulse on the conversation so you can maybe adjust content to stay relevant. BuzzSumo is great for that. And so they have tools with content discovery and content research, and then monitoring so you can track what's happening online. So this is more of a proactive state, and this is a tool you'd want to use if you want to know, like for example, when COVID started trending. Clients we're working with right now, we've adjusted our campaigns in real time because as soon as that conversation exploded, everything shifted to how do we address this? How do we stay relevant, not only as a brand, but make sure we're meeting the needs of the audience right now because, a lot of people are in a state of fear. So it's how do we adjust our content to be sensitive to that? And so BuzzSumo is great because it allows you to keep your finger on the pulse. So to recap, there are two ways to look at social listening. There's the inbound reactive way where you can adjust based on the after the fact, which would be Mention. And then there's social listening for what is the conversation that's just a general conversation and not necessarily your brand specifically, but allows you to say how can you adjust your content to stay relevant to the conversation today. So these are the top two tools that I highly recommend if you're trying to stay relevant or understand how to shift quickly. And that is my weekly gains tip of the day. Thanks, guys.